Hello and welcome to another episode on Captain's Drydock, and in the Drydock today are my beloved Enterprise D warp engines that are going to be retrofitted with motion picture miniatures, really accurate resin parts. Let's have a look.
Accessing library computer data.
Now, if you are a subscriber, thank you very much. And if you have seen the previous videos, you would have seen this. That's right, the Enterprise D, so close to being completed. The four-tone paint job all over the entire thing. I had some stencils made by a good friend of mine, and it was that close until I saw this. Yes, I saw someone using the decals, but they did it such a great job that it convinced me that next to my paint job, they were so superior and much more accurate. So what did I do? I did this. Yep, that's me. Yep, and that's acetone. And yes, that acetone is going on to the plastic. So what I was doing there, I was stripping back all that hard work back to bare plastic. Now, I played around this idea on forums, on YouTube, and a lot of people said, just keep on with it, just paint it, be done with it. But you know as well as I do, if it's a passion project, you want it as good as you possibly can make it. And there's no way I could have had that on the shelf after all the effort I've made with the electronics and all the accurate parts to actually have it sit there and been spoiled by just the paint scheme. So I stripped it back down and then I applied the decals. And this is what they look like. Yes, they did not turn out so good for me, possibly because I've never done it before, and also there was other complications as well because I have windows. I'm lighting the thing up, which meant all those windows were going to be covered up and needed to be scratched open, and it was a terrible mess, and I was absolutely gutted when the second time of trying to make the hull looking beautiful, it just didn't work out. And then I put it away. And then that was it. I had no videos made of the Enterprise D because I needed a break. Hence, many of you who have been watching this channel, thank you very much, have been watching purely because of the Enterprise D progress. Now I'm back on it. So what's changed? Well, it's this, the Silhouette Cameo. I finally got myself my own vinyl cutter. Now there are other cutters out there. There's ones which are called pre-cuts. There are cheaper versions out there as well. And I can make my own stencils rather than rely on other people. And it means I can use trial and error until I get it right. And to actually try different types of vinyls. And so that's what I did. So the first part I wanted to try was the warp engines. The warp engines, they're iconic to the entire model, and if I can get the warp engines right, then the entire model will actually fall into line. But when I got my vinyl cutter, this came on Facebook. That's right, Motion Pictures Miniatures made their own accurate parts. Now, if you remember my previous videos, I mentioned Tetron parts. They made really accurate resin parts for this model. They don't exist anymore. However, this company is run by a fantastic guy based in the UK, and he has remade these and done some extra work as well. And seeing the accurate parts, I was like, well, in for a penny, in for a pound. If I'm stripping the model, I may as well retrofit the model. You may call me crazy, you may call me the most patient man in the world, but either way, I thought, why not? Let's do it. So I installed Motion Pictures Miniatures resin parts into my Enterprise D, starting with the warp engines. So in this particular video, it's mainly going to be a review on the parts that I received for the post, and I didn't actually do a breakdown of me building it because at the time I didn't know how it's going to work, if I was going to carry on with it or not, but it did work. So you're going to see the final result as well with it all lit up. So hope you enjoy. So after emptying the box, this is what you get, and each of the parts are in their own little bags, and you also get an instruction booklet as well as a template as well in there, and we're going to go through each part individually and go into great detail and what makes these things so accurate. So if you want advice about buying just one part from this kit, if you can't afford the entire kit, it would have to be the rear part section of the dorsal area of the Enterprise. Now, the original kit version has so many inconsistencies and inaccuracies, and it stands out like a sore thumb. Now, let me just point those out. So, for instance, the shuttle bay area, those are in the wrong position, and also the shape is not correct either. It's way too square. And the big one for me is the impulse engine. Now, it's clear to see the model version, the studio model version of Star Trek Generations, because there's a close-up shot. But the impulse engine here, it should be right here, rounded. It's got lovely shape and it's higher. And also the spine, which goes all the way down the primary hull, continues to the base here. Now, if you look at the kit version, it doesn't have any of that. It's way too low. There's no continuation of the spine. And again, this is completely the wrong shape. And yeah, this is in fact a piece of rubbish. If you can, discard this and just get yourself this part. The other thing which is really cool is that what's included is the phaser banks. Now, I think these phaser banks may be consistent to green strawberry, so if you do have those brass etchings elsewhere on your Enterprise D, they will match up to this part as well. And one thing that's really cool, if you can just see it, there's little marks where the navigation lights should go. I think these ones are the static white navigation lights, and it's a fantastic little touch, because rather than constantly looking at the TV and going back to your model, you can actually find them here and just drill through them and stick in your fiber optic. But all in all, a fantastic piece, and I highly recommend this as your first buy if you're going to buy one thing from the kit. Other than the saucer section of the Enterprise D, the most recognizable part has to be the warp engines. Now, this pair here, they come as a set, and these are the buzzard ram scoops. So that's the red bit that glows on the warp engines. We're going to focus on this one here, but to the layman, it doesn't seem to be much in modifications. It doesn't look like there's been any changes, not until you get the kit version. You put them side by side. Now, on the left hand side, obviously the kit, and it's made of 3 parts: top, bottom, and the clear part which emits the red glow. On the right hand side is obviously the aftermarket kit, which is solid. Now, look at the top. So the left is much more squared off, where on the right it's corrected, it's rounded. Now, I've been working on models of the Enterprise D for years, and I've never noticed it until I seen this modification. And I have to say, looking back at pictures of the studio model, yes, it's true, this one is correct. The other big change is the grille. So if you got the kit, you would notice that the seam is a nightmare. Now, you can clean it up. The seam does come together, but there's a lot of filling and a lot of sanding and a lot of correcting in regards to this grille. So this grille is way too long. It should be shorter, and also these ribs need to line up to the bottom. Now, we've all done it. Some of us have, some of us haven't, because it's too much of a faff. But you know, you have to basically have to resculpt these to make sure they line up correctly. However, when you look at this, it's perfect. You can see they line up all the way round, and mainly because it's a single part. There's no other pieces that make this, because where it's been molded and cast, so the pour would have happened from the top, it raised all the way up, and so therefore there's no seams. The only thing you'll need to do is actually clean up this flash, and that's what that is. So to install this onto the kit part, what you need to do, obviously get rid of this, you would need to cut this whole section off just behind the ribs here, and then glue this on like so. And that's how you install it. So how do you light it? Because when you look at the kit version, this is hollow, which means you can put some LEDs in here and it will light. However, you can't do that here. So what you need to do is drill 2 holes here and here, so you can fit 2 3mm LED red lights, and that is diffused across the entire clear part, and it looks fantastic. There are pictures that are actually included in the instruction book as well. Beautiful part. Now, the other thing I need to actually mention, if you are building the Enterprise D from All Good Things when it has 3 warp engines, You may need to contact Motion Miniatures and actually ask them, do they actually supply a third buzzard ram scoop, and if they can do that, because they always come as pairs. So you need 3 of those if you're going to make the All Good Things version of the Enterprise D with 3 warp engines. Sticking with the warp engines, which again are incredibly inaccurate, would be the navigation lights. Now these parts, you may not recognize them, but if you look clearly at pictures of the studio model, these are raised and they are 3 dimensions. And I say 3 dimensions because when you look at the green strawberry part, which again they made a good effort, it's 2 dimensions, and that's not accurate, even though everything else is. But this is 3 dimensions, which is what you want. Now let me show you how it's missing. Now let's look at the actual kit part, and you can see there's no housing whatsoever, but there should be a raised housing for the strobe light that blinks. So it's that quick blink 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 blink, that's that light. And there's actually 2 of those lights on this warp engine. So here's the top and bottom. One needs to go on the top, one needs to go on the bottom. You use fiber optics, it's a white light, and only the top has the housing. And to fit that, you need to install this. So you basically make a hole at the top, and this instruction manual actually comes with a really handy templates where you cut them out, put that onto the actual kit, make the hole, so you fit this up underneath. Sticking with engines, we're going to the impulse engines on the saucer section. Now if you look at the kit version, this is incredibly inaccurate. Again, very much like the impulse engine on the main neck of the Enterprise D, it's way too square, the shape is wrong, the profile is wrong. It's almost like it's a bad copy of the impulse engine, when in fact these, they come as a pair just like the buzzard ram scoops. They are perfect. You can even see, let me just focus on one, there's a grill inside, and there's some lovely detail on the outside housing as well. You can just see it. And remember, when you're lighting up the Enterprise D, these actually aren't on, because I've seen a few Enterprise Ds out there where people light these up as red. Again, if you want to do that, that's fine. But if you want to be accurate, they're never actually on, because the saucer section only uses these impulse engines when it's actually moving on its own, not when it's part of the primary hull. So if you are going to make a very accurate version of the Enterprise D, these do not light up when it's actually on the Enterprise D and the saucer section is still connected to the primary section. I am so glad that this part was made. So this is the main shuttle bay. Now I've tried resculpting the main shuttle bay, and it's difficult because these ridges here just on the edges are very different compared to the kit, and the silhouette is very defined, whereas on the kit it's just completely wrong, even down to the shutters of the shuttle bay. But this is the correction. I can't rate this high enough, because I know how hard it is to get to sculpt this correctly, not just once but twice. So you have to make sure they mirror each other, and what he's done here is a work of art, there's no doubt about it. And also making sure the shutter here, it goes down almost 90 degrees. It's not a complete curve, just like, because the kit is a curve, but it's not a curve when you look at the screenshots of the studio model. And also it comes with a helpful flange, and again a template and instructions of how to install it. And just like all the other parts on this model which are similar to this, that it's installed from the inside out. So you pop that in like so, and that also helps block out any lighting. So if you haven't correctly filled your part when you've actually corrected your kit, the light would have to get around this flange and out here. So it's another reason why this has been well made for lighting as well. Now if you want this cargo bay, if you want this shuttle bay area open, that may be an issue. You'd actually have to carve this out. I'm not too sure if I want to do that or not, because I did originally plan to put some tiny little shuttlecrafts which I bought aftermarket around here, but I'm not sure now because this shutter's here and it's a lot of work. But I may just put a shuttle just here as if it's leaving or coming to dock and the shutters are still down. But this is a fantastic piece, and I know how difficult it is to make and get 100% right. So top marks for that. The last detail, but should not be missed out, are the missing windows on the saucer section. Now there are so many photographs of the Enterprise D from below, and if you just look ahead of the captain's yacht, there should be windows, and there aren't on the kit. However, it's been addressed with this handy little part here, and you install it just as you would do when it comes with the navigation lights on the warp drive. There's a fantastic template again that comes with the instructions. Man, I love these instructions, and it makes sure that you position this correctly in the right place, and also enough room for this flange, because this, just like the navigation lights, is stuck from behind the saucer section. And also it's clear, meaning that you can actually light up the model and these windows will light up. Now, I think they should be lit up blue, and if you are going to do that, you can do it one or two ways. I think Tamiya, they do like a blue tint paint, or you can use a blue gel, which studio lighting equipment uses, or you can just use a blue felt tip pen. But this is a really valuable item. It's small, but it really does stand out as being one of those really accurate parts you need on the Enterprise. So as explained earlier on, I didn't actually do a video breakdown of me building, well, should I say rebuilding this warp engine. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to point out what I've done to this warp engine to make it look the way it is now. So credit to JG Model Works, who gave me fantastic advice in regards to paint scheme of the Enterprise D, as well as the finishing touches as well. So that came out superb. So thanks very much, JG Model Works. And now I'm going to talk about the resin pieces. So as you can see, this is the resin buzzard ram scoop at the very top here, and it is seamless. It works really well. You'd never tell that this was a second part to the rest of this. It's so well done, and as you can see, it looks fantastic. Even when it's switched off, as you can see, you just have to make sure you've masked off the entire thing before painting, otherwise it's just going to not look right. And this is actually clear, but if you actually focus in a little bit more, I've dry brushed this gold or bronzy, because on the studio model, as you can see here, yes, those grills have a nice bronze gold effect. And so to do that on this model, you need to do a little bit of dry brushing. So essentially load up your brush with a gold bronze color, and then lightly brush over the ridges, and the ridges will capture those paint particles, but leave the in between bits so the light can actually make its way through. So there's a little tip for you there. The second part of the resin pieces is the back. So if I just zoom in here, now on the original model, it wasn't there at all. Tetron Parts originally did this, and no one else did until they stopped making them. But thankfully, Motion Picture Miniatures now includes this, so it is seamless as well. You have to make sure you do the fill-in and sanding correctly, and I do advise fill, sand, paint, fill, sand, paint, because once you paint it, you will see if there's any cracks, bumps, and anything that stands out as being a separate part. But as you can see, it turned out fantastic. I'm really pleased with this, and just beware that this is actually like a warm grey. So again, referring to pictures of the film model, this is grey, so make sure you actually colour that. And there's the fibre optic. The fibre optic cable, yes, it's protruding a little bit too far there, but I'm only doing that for the time being, and then eventually once I put the model completely together, this will be shortened.
To seek out new life and new civilizations. To boldly go where no one has gone before.
Thank you so much for watching this episode, and again, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. It really helps my channel, and also you'll get to see the latest updates with the Enterprise D, as well as the other projects that I'm doing as well. At the moment, I've got a couple of other projects, such as my communication badges. I currently have a couple of Star Wars Stormtrooper blasters which I'm working on from scratch, including bespoke lights and sounds. Trust me, you don't want to miss that. 2021 is going to be a fantastic year for Captain's Drydock and its own products, because it is going to be a blast. Hell, we needed it after 2020. Anyway, you take care and live long and prosper. Bye.
Library computer data.